In a hilarious twist of irony, all men in America are now female. And hey, before you get mad and say that this is some woke stuff, no. This is all because of Donald Trump's new executive order. Hey, what up there, Florida Newsies? I'm Skylar the Writer. Glad to be back with you. And yeah, according to Donald Trump's new executive order, all men in America are apparently female. Let's get into the details, though, because it's kind of funny and also equally parts pathetic. So Donald Trump has decided to, he's back in the White House. He's back in there. Anyway, one of the first executive orders that he put out was an edict declaring that the federal government will now only recognize two genders, right? So they will, this sort of goes against President Genocide Joe's edicts, trying to expand, what the federal government recognizes in terms of gender, right? And to be clear, so this is something that a lot of both conservatives, liberals, whatever, a lot of people do not understand the difference between sex and gender. And I'm going to go out and offer some grace and say that, like, it's totally understandable to me why that is, right? But let's go into, like, what these words, like, actually mean. Because, words mean things, guys. Words mean things. All right, so here we have, this is the website for the National Institutes of Health, and this is their Office of Research on Women's Health. So here's the page talking about sex and gender. What are sex and gender, and why do they matter in health research? So basically, let's look here. We're going to scroll down here to the definition of sex. So sex, according to, science, is the multidimensional biological construct based on anatomy, physiology, genetics, and hormones. These components are sometimes referred to together as sex traits. All, this is something that every living animal species has, right? And, humans, we are a type of animal. All animals, including humans, have a sex, as it says here. Furthermore, they say that as is common across health research communities, the NIH usually categorizes sex as male or female, although variations do occur. These variations in sex characteristics are known as intersex conditions. Intersex could be like anyone who was born with like any sort of combination of different parts, right? Different reproductive parts. That can include a lot of different things. A lot of intersex people might not even know they're intersex because they fully present as one way or the other, one sex or the other. And they might not know until like there's some, internal medical work done for some other unrelated reason or something, right? The common phrase, I think a common term for that used to be hermaphrodite, but then that sort of phased out. Now it's actually like an offensive term. Now let's go into gender, right? So sex, male, female, right? Those are the two big ones. Gender, according to the National Institutes of Health and, science, both hard science and sociological science. Gender, let's see here. Gender is relevant only for research with humans, not in other animals. Gender can be broadly defined as a multidimensional construct that encompasses gender identity and expression, as well as social and cultural expectations about status, characteristics, and behavior as they are associated with certain sex traits. Understandings of gender vary throughout historical and cultural contexts. So this is where we talk about gender. This is where we talk about gender expression, right? So this is where we're talking about like, let's say like in this country, in America, typically women will wear dresses, right? Or typically women are the main ones to wear dresses, wear makeup out, when they're out and about, wear high heels, something like that is like a type of gender expression, right? That is something related to gender. That doesn't mean that you can't be a man in a dress or that because it's just fashion. And back in the day, a lot of folks may not know it, but back in the day, American men used to wear dresses. Like in other countries, societies, same thing. Um, but yeah, so like someone's gender identity can be like a bunch of different things. So when you see people that are like, oh, I'm non-binary, right? Like that's their gender identity. They don't associate with male or female, right? Even though they may wear clothes typically associated with someone who's male or someone who's female, or excuse me, someone who's a man or a woman. And you see how I got those like tripped up right there real quick. That's what I mean when I say I understand when people don't understand the difference, right? Because if, like, speaking for myself, I think I grew up understanding male, female, boy, girl, man, woman as all being like synonymous, right? Like if you call somebody a male and a woman or a man, those two things mean the exact same thing, and they do not. Okay, male and female are sex. Those are all your bits and pieces. Those are all your genetic bits and pieces that determine whether you are male, female, and if you are some sort of like, combination therein, you would most likely be identified as intersex. Uh, Man, woman, boy, girl means gender expression. What do you identify as? It's a personal held belief that you may have about yourself. All right, has absolutely nothing to do with what your physical parts are. It has absolutely nothing to do, or I should say nothing to do, but it is not as like solely dependent on your physical attributes as like the scientific term, hard scientific term for sex. Okay, so sex, science, hard science stuff, genetics, all of that. Gender is gender expression. Okay, that is a social construct. It's different from society to society. It's different from time period to time period. Remember how I said just a second ago that, back in the day, there was a time where men would wear, what we would consider to be dresses, right? Like there are other cultures and countries where that has always been the case, even today. So like that, the social construct of gender changes over time and changes with wherever you are in the world. So Donald Trump going through and the conservatives that hyped him up, encouraging him to write this ridiculous this ridiculous executive order it's just foolishness, right? So here, a story from NBC News we have here: Trump signs executive order proclaiming that there are only two biological sexes. This also halts diversity programs. White House officials grouped both orders under the Trump administration's wider, quote, restoring sanity agenda. It's ridiculous. This is what Trump supports. This is what y'all voted for. I thought y'all cared about the cost of eggs or something. Like, this is what you want your president to be focused on? Okay. So yeah, he signed these executive orders on Monday, proclaiming that the U.S. government only recognized two sexes, male and female, ending, quote, radical and wasteful diversity, equity, inclusion programs within federal agencies. They just don't like that black people and trans people and Latinos exist. There are going to be some really interesting effects, though, of this ban, right? So, one of them is going to be immediately going to be the passport system. So when Joe Biden, was expanding the gender expression, right, that people have, the options you may have on your passport, he included something called X. So you could say you were male, female, or X, right, meaning you were something else. And, again, as Trump's order says, as of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. But again, gender is different from sex. There is no gender, at least in to my understanding, in American, scientific terminology. There is no gender that is male. There is no gender that is female. Those are sex classifications. Man and woman are genders. Male and female are biological sex. Okay, rooted in anatomy. So even his executive order doesn't understand these definitions, which really shows that he hasn't consulted anybody with any kind of biological or biology background, medical background, or whatever before he started making these things. But anyway, so now this is going to have effects on people with passports that have an X designation, right? They don't identify as male or female on their passport. As of 2022, U.S. citizens have been able to select X as their gender marker on passports. One's marker does not need to match the gender on citizenship documents or photo ID, nor is medical documentation needed to change one's gender, according to the State Department. How this is going to start affecting people's passports, at least from what I've seen, is a little unclear, but it's going to start throwing a wrench into things. So if you're somebody that has a passport that you designated as X, please feel free to leave in the comments how maybe this has affected you, or any tips that you may have for anybody else who is facing this particular challenge, or even if you're not someone who has X on your passport, if you know of resources or how people can navigate this change, please let us know in the comments. I'm sure there might be somebody that finds that very grateful or helpful. All right, so now I want to go to this tweet from a reporter named Matthew Chapman. He is a game programmer and reporter with Raw Story. He tweeted out something that I thought that was really interesting about this law, or this executive order Trump put out. So it says here, this is the language. Let's look at this here. This is the language from the actual order itself, executive order itself. It says male. It says first female means a person belonging at conception, and that's the key phrase here, at conception, to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. And it says male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. As Mr. Chapman illuminates here, that a lot of folks don't know, when at conception, all human beings, I don't care if you are born into a rich family, poor family, you black, white, American, Asian, Ghanaian, Canadian, New Zealander, male, female, like whatever you are today, we all at conception are actually female. Yeah, your sex organs don't develop into something new if you're going to become a male or become a man, or male, excuse me, if you're a male, until later during the pregnancy. At conception, and shortly, for a time thereafter, we are all of us, every single human being on this planet right now, technically female. Yeah, but you didn't know that, did you? So because of the wording, because the law, there's one thing about the law the law craves specificity. Okay, because if you're not specific, you leave room for interpretation, and then that's when you get into these gray areas, and lawyers duke it out or whatever. So the law loves specificity, and going by the specificity of this here executive order, this male this at conception line, male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. Because there is at conception, there is no sex that produces the small reproductive cell at conception. You only have the large reproductive cell. We're all women. So if you follow Trump's ridiculous executive order, all American men, according to the 47th president of these United States, Donald Trump, all American men are legally female. If you don't believe me, let's check out this quick little video This is a video called "We Were All Female." It is by a YouTube channel called ASAP Science. We're just gonna watch a little clip of it, just so, just to see it. But yeah, check this out.
Dear gentlemen, science has a confession. Your life actually began as a female. Well, phenotypically or physically speaking, that is, though some prefer to call this stage gender neutral. As you might know, when two people mate, they each combine half of their genetic information together, 23 chromosomes each. One pair of these chromosomes helps to determine your sex. If you're female, you contain two X chromosomes, one from your mother and one from your father, while males have one X and one Y chromosome. At the moment of conception, you were of course male or female based on your genes, but the Y chromosome doesn't kick in right away. In fact, the first 5 to 6 weeks of embryonic development are attributed to the X chromosome alone, and females grow from embryo to fully developed through the influence of only the X chromosome. So what does the Y chromosome do? Once activated, one of the genes on the Y chromosome, known as the SRY gene, has two functions: to inhibit certain features of the X chromosome and to impose through dominance the physiological traits that a male must have. The ovaries descend and become the testes, and the labia fuses to create the scrotum. If you're a male, take a look. Though it's more pronounced in some men than others, you'll likely notice a line or ridge of tissue on the scrotum, which is called the scrotal raphe. The skin of the scrotum and penis are zipped up like a zipper as the layers of cells develop in the embryo.
All right, so that was just a little taste of the video. For the full thing, go to the ASAP Science YouTube channel, their page, to watch the video. We Were All Female, to get a better understanding of what the topic is. Yeah, but anyway, very well done video, by the way. Anyway, let's get into what you can do, right? Because as we always say here at Forward Up News, we're about giving you the truth to move you forward, but also actions to help lift you up. All right, so here's what you can do with the information that we just talked about, right? So part of the reason that we're here, that apparently all men in America are now female, according to Donald Trump's ridiculous executive order, is because of a lack of understanding of what words mean. Because words mean things, people. Words mean things. Words mean things. So what you could do is let's make sure we understand what all these words are, what they mean, and that we're all operating from the same, I think, knowledge base of information, right? And one really great resource, and I feel like it's probably going to be some conservative folks or anti-trans folks, I should be more specific, who might not like this, but I think one way to keep engaged in this, one way to stay informed, one good resource that everybody I think could really check out is going to be from the GLAAD Media Reference Guide. Their 11th edition is currently out. And it's basically even though it says media reference guide, this is really for anybody, but they just put media. GLAAD, it used to be, I think GLAAD used to stand for the Gay and Lesbian Anti something defamation. I have to look that up, but I don't know if it stands for that anymore. But GLAAD is, it's a pro LGBT organization that fights oppression and, stigmatization, discrimination in media, those types of things. But they have this really great media reference guide that has a lot of definitions regarding terms, right? And not just about LGBT stuff, but like we were just talking about sex, gender, intersex, sexual orientation, all kinds of things that are just basic regular definitions. These are not special, unique definitions that only GLAAD uses, right? And it says here on their page that definitions were drafted in collaboration with other U.S.-based LGBTQ community organizations and leaders. You can see the acknowledgments in their acknowledgement sections. And then it says here, additional terms and definitions about gender identity and gender expression, transgender people, and non-binary people are available in their transgender glossary. So the transgender glossary is a separate thing, but you can check these things out. You see here, definitions on, what exactly what does bisexual mean, right? Like, what is that? What does transgender mean? What is queer? What is non-binary? What is androgynous? What is aromantic? All kinds of these things. What is homosexual? What is intersex, like we talked about before? What is pansexual? All these types of things that a lot of people might think they know what they mean, or they might have heard them, but they've never really thought about like what the actual definitions are. And again, like we said earlier, there's also the glossary of terms specific to the transgender community, right? So glossary of terms for things like what is sex at birth? Which is something that we all get. When you're trans, cisgender, whatever, we all get assigned a sex at birth. Assigned it, there's gender identity, which that's what you choose on your own, gender expression. What is trans? What does transition mean within the context of being transgender? What is social transition, legal transition? All these things that a lot of people, that especially if you're not in the community, but even when you are, you might not know what all these things are. This is a really great resource. It is the GLAAD glossary of terms in their media guide, in their in their GLAAD media reference guide, and then of course they have the subsequent reference guide for their glossary of terms specific to transgender people. So those are two different guides, but they all provide a wealth of knowledge and information to help anyone, not just the media folks, anyone just needing to more knowledge about these different communities and these different terms. And had President Trump or someone on his team maybe read these things, maybe they wouldn't have written an executive order that accidentally, I assume accidentally, classified all American men as legally female. Let us know what you think about this entire situation. If you have any tips or tricks, like we said earlier, for folks who have X on their listed as their gender on their passport, how they should handle things now, considering this executive order. Any thoughts, questions, anything like that, put them down in the comments. We'd really love to hear from you. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Really trying to grow this channel. The independent news media space, it's a lot. It's different. So yeah, we really love your support there. And also don't forget to follow Forward Up News on Twitter. Mama named it Twitter. We're going to call it Twitter. Follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky and TikTok, because TikTok's back. That's the whole thing. At Forward Up News. I'm Skylar the Writer. And until next time, y'all, be good to yourselves. Be good to others. If you can't do that, just mind your business. Just mind your business. All right, y'all. Peace.